Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Kaiju number 8, Season 2, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up where the last episode left off, and Hoshina is having a conversation with Kaiju number 10. And unfortunately for Hoshina, he put on too much of a good display last season because now Kaiju number 10 really likes him and is now suggesting like, cool, I'll give you information about Kaiju number 9. I was like, that's a little fast. Like, why are you so willing to give up that information? But it's like, it's a fighter and it's like, I want you to take me out of here so we can fight. And it's like, your body's not in condition. We can't repair your body back to what it was. But it's like, no, I'm fine with that. He's like, I want you to make me into a weapon, which is so interesting because they even pointed out, wait, this kaiju is aware that they turn other kaijus into weapons. So I guess 9 already had that in mind, like even before now. Because like last season, he didn't run into anyone with a numbered weapon. Obviously, this season's the first season. But I guess he's probably been playing the intelligence game for a while. Who knows how long Kaiju number 9's been out and about, just obviously like making his move last season. But who knows how long he's been in the background and stuff like that. So, but yeah, for 10 to have that knowledge, and it's like, I want you, like I like you so much that I want us to become partners. And Hoshina's like, let me think about it, and walks away. And he talks to Okonagi, and he's like, oh my god, that was so scary. That thing is super scary. Like, why is it taking such an interest in me? That thing was getting all up in my face. And it's just like, yeah, like he's like, I don't think I should. And she was like, yeah, because we don't know what it's like to have a sentient kaiju become a weapon. We have no idea what that would do to a norm. Because that's interesting, because like they've only had the like, once again, Kafka's a very special case, but 9 and 10 are very special in regards that they are sentient kaijus. They're the only ones we've come across so far. So, because even the one inside of Kafka isn't sentient to our... I mean, the only reason why it's sentient at all is because it fused with Kafka. So it's like, who knows what that would do to someone. But for Hoshina, it's like a chance he's willing to take, because it's like, they're going to need extra muscle going forward in this fight, especially now that Kaiju number 9's gotten stronger. But yeah, the reason why, what he knows about 9 is that 9 made him. And that started making me wonder, like, you don't think he's like the arbiter of like all kaijus? But it's like, no, it seems like a super recent thing, but it kind of makes sense because he seems to be the most like, he's very Frankenstein-esque in like what he's able to do, like modifying and boosting the powers of kaijus. So him being able to make one of his own isn't too surprising, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But it is interesting. I mean, it's still kind of a shocking bit of information to know, like, well, he doesn't just experiment on kaijus and boost them. He made one of his own. And so it's like, to their knowledge, he's the first kaiju to ever do something like that. So, and now it's basically a gathering of all the heads of the Japanese Defense Force. I think the only ones that didn't show up, or at least the ones that never got any play, was like 5 and 6. They did specifically say those on the, like, who like handle the eastern side of Japan. So I think 1 through 4 were the only ones there. I mean, there was someone beside number 4, so I don't know if that was the captain of the 5th division or what, because there's 6 divisions in total. But I think like, because it was earlier in the season, they showed you a map of where everyone is. I mean, this also kind of plays into a little bit of a comedic bit of the episode, because apparently, like, Tokyo is an overlap zone between the 1st division and the 3rd division, and they both get very, like, prideful and territorial. And so there's beef between Hoshina and Narumi, and Narumi's like, hey, yo, like, who told you to come here? It's like, yo, and Hoshina's like, I went to your higher-ups. They gave me permission. He's like, well, I didn't. People with, like, narrow eyes and bowl cuts aren't allowed here. And oh, look at that, you got both. And then like Hoshina's like, oh, you're pissed about me because like I killed more smaller kaiju than you. And I love that that's giving Narumi psychological damage, him literally getting flung back. But they're like, Captain, and they're just like beefing about like, you came into our territory. Well, the fact is the fight spilled over to this place, so that was kind of in our territory. So like a little back and forth. And then Hoshina's like talking about how, well, no, it was like Narumi being like, I'm basically great in every other factor outside of like that. But it's like, well, no, you're not, because Mina's the top dog when it comes to the long range stuff. And he takes more psychic damage. And other people are like, Captain, why would you bother telling it's such an obvious lie? And so you have Hasegawa come up and, always like cutting through Narumi's BS. And so the large meeting between the captains, we get a proper introduction to the captain of the 2nd Division and the 4th Division. And so it's a gathering. What's his face is obviously taking over for director now that Isawa is gone. And so Hoshina kind of lays everything out that they learned from Kaiju number 10. And they're like, well, can we really take what he said at face value? It's like, well, to be fair, when we look at like the analytics of kaijus that have gotten more powerful over the years, and we're even seeing new species that we've never seen before. The fact is the average was wasn't like 2 point something, and now the average kaiju fortitude is like 4.6 or something like that, or it's in the 4-point area. So it coincides with all of this. And obviously the larger conversation too being, we all have to come together. I think it was like, basically a defense force, like one division usually can take down at least like maybe 5 powerful kaiju, but that number of kaijus they're able to defeat of the power variety gets less and less the higher that number goes. Like once you get to like Fortitude 9.0 and above, that's when those numbers start decreasing on how many kaijus they can take down. It's like, to deal with 9, we're going to need to come together, because this thing is going to be like 10, and we found out it's just a prototype. So his motivation is, I want to become your weapon, because when you fight 9 in the future, he's going to have like the more finished product of future kaijus, and I'm going to want to be a piece of that. I want to fight like the more, as the prototype, I want to fight the finished products. And even the second captain being like, yo, that thing, as powerful as it is just a prototype. God knows. And especially as powerful as Kaiju number 9 has become now, the more powerful Kaijus it'll be able to complete in the future. We even see it as Isao, as it's got like all these like whole bunch of like, I think, copies of itself, like making like, I think, unlike the versions, I'm curious to see if they're going to change, but from what we could see, it looked like they were just copies. So I'm wondering, is that all it's going to do going forward, is just make more powerful version of itself? So, they had a not rough time, but obviously like the copies put up a pretty good fight, but obviously Kafka and Narumi were able to kind of deal with them. But once again, like the state's 9 stronger now, so he's making stronger versions. They'll probably send out there, because they can most likely, I'd assume they'd share his ability to shapeshift too and turn into people. But then like, who knows if those could go out there, and those separate ones could go off and probably enhance other kaijus, or who knows, I doubt they can make kaijus of their own. So it's just, he continues to be a massive problem. And it's also like, we have no idea where he's hiding. In fact, they're like, maybe like the amount of energy he would need to make kaijus the way he'd want to, they're like, he has to be somewhere in between like the Philippine and like Euro-Asian like plates. Because they ended up saying like their current theory about how kaijus came to be, because it's like, we still don't know where they come from, is basically that what is it? Like, it was like the energy and the warping of the tectonic plates in conjunction with like different animals and creatures is kind of their running theory. So I'm like, but how do you stop that then? But what exactly in that process is making that? I don't know if they'll ever go deeper into that, because also the biggest enigma is still the thing in Kafka. Once again, the line from episode 1 we still haven't gotten an answer to. Once again, maybe this gets answered in the manga as the story progresses, but that thing said, when it found Kafka, it said, I found you. So I was looking for him. So, and 9 seems to be like completely blindsided by 8. So I wonder what that stems from. There's something there that like I said, we haven't even come close to ever getting answers about that. Because I don't think Kafka's ever brought that up to everyone, because he probably in the shock of everything going on, I mean, like, you were kind of like half out. You were just focused on something else. This thing was there. It possessed you. You turned into a kaiju. Probably had so much going on that he probably doesn't remember it literally saying, like, I found you. So, well, I mean, like I said, why would it do what it's doing? Not less like its plan has always been like, not less it's aiming for the throne, because they talk about Nine in this capacity where Nine has become the king of the kaijus, you know, so taking that throne from Six, which we'll get to in a second. So I'm curious, is Eight trying to do a similar thing? Like, was it just kind of like, did it descend away from the kaiju to be like, I want to make moves of my own? Because I'm wondering, because we had this whole compatibility conversation with those who can, you know, work well with the weapons, that the kaiju weapons. So I'm curious, did Eight sit, like I said, it must have sent something in Kafka, like, you're the only human I'm compatible with. Like, who knows what that stemmed from, but like, what is Eight's plan to begin with? Like, unlike the other, like, unlike 9 and 10 we can talk to, like, even the times like Kafka was losing himself to 8 last season, it didn't talk to him, it just devoured him. It seems like that thing, like, maybe it seems to be mainly acting on instinct versus like 9, which is like, yo, I am planning and concocting stuff, and 10 seems to be kind of like driven by battle instinct of like, I just want to fight and fight and fight and fight. That's kind of what I'm programmed to do. So, but either way, circling back, since I brought up the whole Kaiju number 6 conversation, it plays a pivotal role in their plans going forward. Basically, the thing is, because 9 has Isao's memories now, so they know, like, their playbook inside and out. He knows enough of their structure because of that. I mean, Isao was the general. Like, of course, he'd know the ins and outs of the organization. So we can only assume 9 has that access to that information too. So the question then becomes like, well, what do we do? We're going to have to arm ourselves with those who are incomplete and up and coming, but we need, like, those with the greatest potential. They're untapped potential. We got to beef up the next generation, you know, to be the thing he's not ready for. And then also bring out Kaiju number 6's weapon, which it seems is the way they're talking about it, it's a suit. Like, it's like a suit of armor. But apparently it's the most powerful one, so they haven't done anything with it yet. And, you know, it's like the conversation of 9 is, so basically we're going to have the former king of the kaiju versus the current king of the kaiju. And obviously 6, I think it's meant to be very, like, I mean, to be fair, the thing Narumi killed in, like, episode 1, that kaiju ended up being very, like, Godzilla-esque, but this seems even more Godzilla-esque, being, you know, once again, king of the monsters and stuff, so. But it left such a scar that it's like, yeah, people remember what that thing was like, because what was like, is it like the 4th Division vice captain was like, yeah, I was a student at the time, but it like left such a, like, imprint on me, even I remember, you know, when 6 was on its rampage, you know, because, like, obviously Hikari led the charge against it. So I'm wondering if that's, well, first I was wondering if that's what's in the tube that Isao was looking at. Because, like I said, my theory, like, when we first got introduced to it, I was like, you don't think he's keeping his wife alive, that she's actually alive, but they're trying to do everything to kind of, like, maybe she's on, it might be like a, I have it in my mind currently, but I was like, you don't think it's like a Mr. Freeze thing? Like, you know, he froze his wife Nora so that he could try and, like, find a cure to, like, her illness, or to slow it down enough that he could have time to try and find a cure for her. I'm curious if there's a similar thing going on here where it's like she's in a state that it's like maybe she's almost in a catatonic state, and it's like, I need to, like, keep her, like, on stasis until we can find a way to, like, heal her. I don't know. Or whether that, because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that isn't Kaiju number 10, because that's in a different area. So I don't know, like, the conversation about Kaiju number 6. I think that might be in a completely different area too. So, like I said, what the hell is in that tube? If that wasn't Kaiju number 6, then what the hell was it? Like I said, I still banking on it being Hikari to some extent, but I don't know. I might end up being wrong about that, and perfectly fine with that, but that's just my current thought about it. But it turns out that they have an idea of who the person that's going to be compatible with Kaiju number 6. And lo and behold, it turns out to be Ichikawa. And so the 4th Division captain, that's who Ichikawa Iniharu is with currently, it's like, okay, it's kind of like sucky because it's like this thing is that powerful, and we're asking a teenager to put their self through like what this is going to be. And so he brings Ichikawa in. It's like, if I were you, I would tell you to refuse this. It's like, because it was a misunderstanding I had back in, like, I think episode 4, or maybe early in the season, they referenced like, Isao using his weapon. I thought it was his specifically that burns through his life force, but it's like, no, it's all kaiju weapons. It's just the more you push yourself with the kaiju weapon, the more of a toll it's going to take on your life, to the point that it's like the 4th Division captain's like, anyone who uses a kaiju weapon, like half of them die before they even get out of the service, because it just drains that much of their life. And so it's like, you need to really think about, are you willing to go through this? And for Ichikawa, he is, because he's thinking to himself, it's like, if I don't do this, then who's going to help keep Kafka's, his dream alive? And the fact is, I want to be there. I want to help him. He's thought of that for the longest time of like, I want to support my senpai. I want to help him. I want to alleviate some of his burden. So obviously, him and Kafka are on really interesting parallel journeys, where Kafka is going to be turning himself more and more into a kaiju, and Ichikawa is setting himself down a path where, as time goes on, he will like shorten his own life in the process, to the point that even the 4th Division captain is like, 6 is such a big problem that Ichikawa will most likely die even faster than anyone else using a numbered weapon, just because this thing is just that crazy powerful and it puts that much of a strain. I mean, Ichikawa just only used like the arms, and it put such stress on his body. Even the 4th captain was like, hey, yo, like, get the stretcher, and for Ichikawa, it's like, so this is what Kafka has been fighting the entire time, like, knowing that sensation now to some extent. And so when he wakes up, the captain offers him again, like, yo, I would refuse. And even Ihara is like, yeah, I think you should. But he's like, no, I'm going to see this through. And for him, it's like, he's like, I admire that look in his eyes, that determination, even later being like, no hesitation at all. But he's like, that will cost you in the long run because of the price of doing this. But it's like, all right, you got a month. You're going to go out on a mission on the front lines using with that suit. So you have to be ready by then. We got to see like what you're truly capable of with that. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go on that front. Because Ichikawa is completely unaware of Kafka's current circumstances. Because, I mean, I believe only I was trying to think. I'm sure. Well, I think everyone that is in the know are only like the higher ups at the Defense Force, Division 1, the 1st Division, and the 3rd Division. I don't think the other division. I think that's the whole point. Like, they're still completely unaware of Kafka, and it's like, well, that's probably not the best time to bring that up, especially after Sao's death and him being kind of a numbered kaiju. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's still on the wraps, but eventually that's got to come out to the forefront. And they're probably also not going to let anyone know, especially anyone from the 3rd Division, or, those who are still there, or those who split off into the other divisions, especially like Ikawa, probably don't want him to know about Kafka's circumstances being what they are. And then Kafka will probably be completely unaware about Ichikawa until probably like the time comes where, I mean, it might even be a joint operation where they have to fight side by side, and they'll probably maybe then find out about each other's circumstances. And I could definitely see both of them being like, I got to push myself so Ichikawa doesn't have to go on the battlefield. Ichikawa being like, I have to push myself so Kafka doesn't have to go out on the battlefield. They're going to be motivation for each other to put it all on the line. But I mean, considering this fight being what it is, it makes total sense on them putting it all on the line. So we'll see where things go from here, and get probably I don't know if it'll be like in the next episode, but in the coming episodes maybe we'll get to see like what this full suit of Kaiju number 6 looks like, and how much of a strain it puts on Ichikawa's body. And then finally we have our little show at the end. was it Hoshina's like night, his little radio show. And of course, his guest this time is Narumi, and Narumi's just so like upset at him, being like, "Why do you get a radio show?" And then it's like, "Oh, I could do this tongue twister." It's like, what does that have to do with being the host of a radio show? He's like, "What, you scared?" And he does one, and then Hoshina does one even more than his, and it's just like immediately Narumi can't do it. It's like, "Oh, can't do it, huh?" And gets mental psychic damage yet again. So I love their dynamic. It's going to be really interesting when they eventually like are going to fight together on the battlefield. It's going to be really interesting when they what kind of scene they end up cutting up, So, but yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.